Welcome to Navigate Your Wealth. Thanks again so much for joining us. This is brought to you by Compass Financial, started by Karen Stawicki and Samantha Irish. I'm Rebecca Powers. Good to see you all at home and great to see you.
Good to be back. Thank you.
I want to just talk about your story a little, how you ended up in Charleston, because you've been doing this for 42 years. Hard to believe when you look at it, right? But it is in your blood. Clearly, you grew up around it. How did you get your entire family to come and set down roots in beautiful Charleston?
I know. As you mentioned, I grew up in the financial business. Both my mom and my dad were in the industry, and so our dinner table conversations always had a little bit of financial education in them. I had the opportunity to see both of my parents help people with something that was so important to them, and I love to talk to anybody that will listen to me. I love meeting new people. I've never met a stranger. And so I was actually working at the University of Alabama. I was in Tuscaloosa, and my mom and my career goals were waiting for me in California. And I said, I'm not quite ready to move back west. I need one more year in the Southeast. And I found myself in Charleston.
Wonderful.
And anybody that's been to Charleston knows it steals your heart the minute you step off the plane. And I picked up the phone and said, Mom, I'm not coming home.
And if you want to start this business with me, you're coming here.
Exactly. If there's any chance of us being business partners, it's going to be in Charleston. And so
it took a couple of years, but I ended up moving to Charleston. My husband could not have been happier to get back on the right coast. And
yes.
he's retired and fishing and happy as can be, mostly because he's closer to his daughter. But
and then it took me a few more years, but I got my brother, so I got the whole family. I've got the business that I promised a few years earlier, and now we've been together for 10 years.
So it's all about relationships. I just want to mention you have actually one of your clients is almost 100 years old.
Yes, yes. It was when I was working in the bank, and she first came in because she didn't like CD rates, which, by the way, back then were 8 and 9%. And I introduced her to the concept of an annuity for accumulation. She didn't need any of the income. So I said, great, we're going to let the money that you put in earn the interest that you don't need earn, and money that you would otherwise pay to taxes earn. And so she purchased this guaranteed annuity and got a good rate of return on it. And a number of years later, she said, I really don't know what to do with this, and I've got 2 nieces and a nephew that I would love to do something for. So I put my thinking cap on, and I said, I've got just the idea for you. We're going to do a scheduled payout on this annuity, and the amount that we get in the payout, we're going to use as premium and buy 3 life insurance policies, 1 for each of your nieces and nephews.
In their name, not her name.
In their name.
But she
so
paid
it was a
for
gift
it.
to them.
Okay.
And so what the great thing about that kind of an annuitization is it was called a period certain. And so it was that life insurance policy premium only had to be paid for 10 years. If she was still alive in the 11th year, she'd get the check. If she was still alive in the 12th year, she'd get the check. Meanwhile, those life insurance policies were all paid up and the kids were happy as clams.
Wow.
Guess what? She bought that policy when she was 60 years old, the first one. Let it accumulate till about 70. And last year, in fact, in less than 30 days, it will be her 101st birthday. We celebrated her 100th birthday. Last year, we flew back to California.
Amazing.
And had a birthday party for her. And God
that insurance
willing,
company doesn't like her.
I know. Well, that's the thing, because once those policies were paid for, those checks came to her, and they will continue to come to her.
Isn't that amazing?
God willing,
Yes.
every year she has a heartbeat.
And for people who live that long, well, for any of us, let's say you have 30 or 40 years to grow your assets. What's the difference between when you're growing your assets and when to take the money out?
I'm so glad you asked this question, because it is one of our favorite things to discuss, because they are night and day.
Okay.
So when you're growing your assets, we refer to that as the accumulation phase, right? You are accumulating your assets and you're trying to grow those assets to be as large as possible. But when you go to turn on the income, it happens in the distribution phase. And how the money grows in both phases is very different.
You know, when I first got in the business, a lot of people used certificates of deposit for distribution because, let's face it, you could get 8, 10, 12. I remember CDs that people tied up money for 5 years at 15%. I thought, why would you tie money up for 5 years? Okay, today they would tie it up forever if they could get
that.
15%. Of course, it was double-digit inflation, and again, those are the days.
Right.
But the distribution on a income product like that was easy because it was a great rate of return. We don't have that today, so we have to use different tools and different strategies to get that distribution. But I want to go back to accumulation and distribution and how it's very different.
Okay.
Again, the industry has done a terrible job of leading people to believe if you save enough money and get a great rate of return, you're going to be fine. And honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. Because once you turn that income on, it's a whole new game. And let me explain what I mean. I don't know if you know anybody. I know one person who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
And they got there, they were prepared, they did everything they needed to do, but they hired a Sherpa when they got there.
Sure.
We're the Sherpas. Okay?
Money,
Of
not
money.
of climbing.
Exactly.
Not of climbing, that's right. So they hired the Sherpa. The Sherpa better put everything they need in that backpack, not just to get them to the top of the mountain, but to get them back down. Because more deaths occur on the way down than on the way up. And that's the same thing in retirement. Everybody's worked so hard to save your money, but if you don't have a plan that actually shows you what to do, how to not outlive your dollars, how to pay the least amount of taxes possible, how to get some growth on assets that you need to still have growing, you've got a plan based on hope. You can go to bed every night and hope that it works. But that's not the kind of plan we want you to have.
And that literally is why people are watching the news, and there's a high divorce rate and high suicide rate, and there's a lot of mental illness issues right now because of fear and anxiety and money. So if you are at home and you don't have a plan, there's something seriously wrong with whoever's been advising you.
Absolutely.
And do you find that when people walk in that you have got a lot of folks, and I know so much of your business is referral, which speaks volumes about y'all. Do you find people don't have a plan from their other advisors?
You know, I think it's twofold. You either have the individual that is just saving and doesn't have a plan, but feels like they've accumulated enough. And then you have the individuals that maybe 10 or 12 years ago sat down with somebody and got some advice. But they haven't actually touched that plan in 10 or 12
heard from
years.
that person. That was my experience.
Or if the advisor hasn't picked up the phone to call them and say, how are you doing and how has life changed?
Right.
So when you don't have a plan that's ever evolving, it's only as good as looking in your rearview mirror and driving down the road. You've got to have your eye forward. We have to see how are things changing and what does that mean, because our goals also change as life evolves.
Absolutely.
So the personal experience, I mean, people can pick up that number and call you and reach either one of you basically anytime. Let's talk about that. That there is no question too small.
No, absolutely. And again, everybody's an individual. And what we love about the age difference here in this mother-daughter team is that she comes from a different perspective. So sometimes when we're having the conversation with the client, she's hearing different issues than I am, and vice versa.
Wow.
Right? So it really is very, I think, insightful that we can help in that way.
Yeah. We're going to take a very, very short break, but we want to give you this wonderful offer. Every week we save about 20 slots so our viewers get a chance to get in and speak with this wonderful team. Let's give them the number, Samantha.
If you would like to figure out what your accumulation and distribution strategy is, pick up the phone now. The phone number is 855-348-3073. We'd love to help you navigate your wealth.
And there's absolutely no obligation at all, just a warm conversation. Stay with us more about how we can navigate your wealth and get you to retirement faster with much more joy. Stay with us.